I don't know if you caught it at the press conference yesterday with the president, but Obama snuck in a mention of, we got to be careful about the extremist elements working alongside the rebels that we're currently arming. He knows it's happening. The New York Times has reported on it, but no one talks about it. We're on the wrong side, America. And America continues to do it. His closest ally in the Middle East is Turkey. In fact, it's his closest ally. No, Mark, I said his closest ally, not America's closest ally. Turkey. The prime minister there, it's the center of the Arab movement, which, by the way, Turkey is one of the countries that doesn't consider Hamas a terrorist organization. Oh, we should be good friends. And here's what Egypt says about the latest escalation in the Middle East. Remember, this is the new Egypt that our current administration is backing. And you send your tax dollars to them, and they send those tax dollars to the Muslim Brotherhood. We're arming Egypt. And listen, this is what the Muslim Brotherhood's political arm said today. Quote, the Freedom and Justice Party. Sound familiar, progressives? The Freedom and Justice Party strongly condemns the assassination by Israeli occupation forces of Ahmed Jabari, a crime which should see a fast Arab and international response to stop a wave of similarly bloody massacres against the Palestinian people besieged in the Gaza Strip, and which are being used by the Israeli government for leverage in political conflicts raging within Israel. Wow. Thank you, Egypt, for checking in. Is there anybody in Washington with a soul anymore? Our tax dollars are going towards a government that supports Hamas. We're sending money to Egypt, a group labeled by us, America, our government even, Hamas, a terrorist group. And we're arming Al-Qaeda and other extremist groups and running guns to Syrian rebels. And there's not a peep from the media. Nothing. And the light grows fainter. We are on the side of darkness, and no one in the media will show you the faces of loss today. No one brings it up at the press conference yesterday. They actually ask about global warming and if he's chatted with Mitt Romney lately. God will not hold you blameless. We have to do everything that we can, whatever is within our power. On Thursday, I spoke at the stadium, Cowboy Stadium here in Dallas for a fundraiser for Israel. And then on Sunday, I got onto another plane. I don't usually work on the Sabbath, but when you want to do fundraisers for Israelis, you either work on their Sabbath or your Sabbath. And because I thought, you know what, we're all children of the same God. I'll work on my Sabbath because our ox is in a mire. And I went down to Houston and I did a fundraiser for a hospital that was a children's hospital right in the middle of Israel. And right before I spoke, the head of the hospital said, I wish I could come to you on happier circumstances. I wanted to talk to you about expanding the children's hospital for the underprivileged and for the handicapped, but I have to talk to you instead about building our 5th and 6th parking garage level and changing those now into surgical centers, emergency care treatment centers, because we are afraid the Middle East is about to go into war. And we have to treat a lot of Jews, Christians, and Muslims. A lot of Jews and a lot of Arabs. And we need them to be safe. My wife and I, and along with Mercury One, donated $50,000 I didn't expect to do that Saturday or Sunday, but I did because I know the time in which we live. I've donated my time for this hospital, and I've donated my cash for this hospital. We have to do all that we can do. They are no longer just a kids' hospital. They're an emergency shelter, underground. They knew last weekend war was coming, and here it is. Today I had lunch with somebody, and I swear to you, I so appreciate the frankness that this individual spoke to me with. But they chastised me a little bit on hurry up. What are you doing? Hurry up. I feel a lot like you do, and like they did. We're all giving everything we can, and we're all feeling the pressure. And we're all doing our best. I feel so stupid at times building this network because I don't know how it lasts. I don't know how all this works. We're building it as quickly as humanly possible. I don't know how it's going to work, but I am bound to determine that the voice of decent people will be heard all around the world. I am determined that we, you and me, will be remembered as people who stood against the slaughter of innocents. It's the kind of hatred and evil that Israel struck back at this week. Quote from Hamas, "As long as the Jews occupy our land, they have one thing in store, death, or they'll leave the occupied Palestinian territories." Here is what you need to remember, America. The world is at war. But to quote a letter to George Washington from Anthony Wayne, let us behave like men determined to be free. I've said it before, you're not alone. Now we say it again to Israel, you're not alone. Sharona Swartz is here. She's our Middle Eastern correspondent. She is in Israel now. She's been monitoring the attacks for theblaze.com. She joins us now live from northern Israel to tell us a bit what is happening and what the feeling is like there. Hi, Sharona. How are you?
I'm good, Glenn. How are you?
Very good. Tell me what's happening. What's the latest?
So the most significant development of the evening was that Islamic Jihad fired a long-range missile, what they're calling a Fajr missile, which has a 70-kilometer or 44-mile radius that it can travel to towards Tel Aviv. The IDF says nothing fell in Tel Aviv, but it definitely rattled nerves in Tel Aviv. For the first time since 1991, that's 21 years, sirens wailed in Tel Aviv, marking incoming rockets or missiles. The people I spoke to who were in Tel Aviv said that at first they were confused because they didn't expect anything would hit Tel Aviv, but then they quickly, those I spoke to said they quickly went into the hallway because they didn't have time to get to their shelters. And then there was definitely a feeling of a little bit of panic and concern. And then after, one person I spoke to who heard a faint boom in the distance, went back to their daily lives. But there's definitely a feeling of unease in Tel Aviv. In the south, I would say people, as you mentioned in your monologue, have been looking at evil for a very long time. In the past year alone, 1,000 rockets have been fired at them. They're feeling very resolute, very resilient. They're giving Netanyahu all the leeway he needs. They're just saying, finish the job already. We cannot take this anymore. We cannot live like this any longer. Okay, so Sharona, when I met some Israelis last week here in Dallas at this fundraiser, I said, and I meant it to seem comforting, but I don't think it was. It didn't work out well. I said, I want you to know half of America is with you. I've never said that before, but the election shows that to be true. Half of America is with Israel.
Do you guys feel different since the election? Do you feel more alone? What has this election done to the psyche of people in Israel?
First of all, Israelis get reports not only about presidential elections, but also about congressional elections. And they do feel that, Prime Minister Netanyahu went a couple of years ago to the United States. You interviewed him. He got a standing ovation in Congress. So the Israelis actually do feel that they do have the support of the American people despite the election results. And then that is, I think we can give credit where credit is due so far. Jay Carney today just said, the White House condemns Hamas and there's, quote, no justification for cowardly acts. I think the real question is going to be, can Obama, deal with fanatics? Professor Barry Rubin, a Middle East watcher, wrote a column this evening saying that the U.S. is not used to dealing with fanatics. What's going to happen? How's Obama going to react? President Obama going to react if some more civilians get killed in Gaza? Is he going to say, pull back Israel, stop the job before it's finished? What's he going to do if President Morsi in Egypt calls for a breaking of the treaty or an amending of the treaty as a result of this? The Muslim Brotherhood president is under immense pressure from his supporters in the Muslim Brotherhood to do a lot more than yanking the ambassador, which is what the only thing basically he's done so far.
Sharona, thank you very much. We'll continue to watch it and continue to write for The Blaze. I read your stories every time you post one. Just great reporting from Israel. God bless, Godspeed, and back in a minute.